Welcome to another explainer. Today, we're taking a highly structured look at how AI transforms project scope management from a tedious, soul-crushing chore into a massive strategic advantage. If you manage projects, you know that setting up the foundation correctly is absolutely everything. So today, we're going to dig into the methodologies proving how artificial intelligence can completely overhaul the way you build and manage your project scope. Now, let me ask you directly, because if you're familiar with the pain of missed deadlines and ballooning budgets, you've probably wondered this. Why do so many projects completely fail before they even really start? Seriously, think about the projects you've been on that just went totally off the rails. Where did those initial cracks actually appear? Well, the data shows that a staggering percentage of projects fail purely due to poorly defined scope. It's the absolute monster in the room, right? Project managers get totally bogged down spending weeks gathering requirements, defining deliverables, and manually building out work breakdown structures, not to mention trying to identify dependencies, fighting off scope creep, and maintaining traceability. These heavy administrative burdens often crush a project's momentum right out of the gate. Okay, let's dive right into our playbook for today. We're going to cover defining the project baseline, structuring the work, validating and protecting scope, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with what's called the 10 million pound blueprint. All right, starting things off with phase 1, defining the project baseline. Think about the traditional way we do this. A project manager spends hours, sometimes weeks, reviewing meeting notes, emails, workshops, and business cases just to identify requirements. But with an AI-assisted approach, we're talking about moving from days of manual reading to literally minutes. AI can process those stakeholder inputs and instantly extract your functional and non-functional requirements, constraints, assumptions, and dependencies. One really fascinating way to do this is using a prompting framework called RTF. That stands for Role, Task, Format. You tell the AI its role, like act as a senior business analyst. You give it a task, like review these workshop notes and identify constraints. Then you specify the format, like present the output as a requirements catalog. This simple structure turns scattered, messy analysis into an instant, perfectly cataloged output. But, teams often make the mistake of jumping right into delivery before the scope is actually locked. To fix this, instead of staring at a blank page, try a flipped instruction prompt. This means you actually have the AI interview you before defining the scope. You instruct it to ask you 10 specific questions about objectives, stakeholders, and success criteria. Once you answer, the AI produces a complete scope statement, making sure you have a rock-solid baseline from day one. Moving right along to phase 2, structuring the work. We all know that creating a detailed work breakdown structure, or WBS, is notoriously time-consuming. Traditionally, this takes days of tedious mapping. But instead of building it from scratch, an AI-assisted approach generates a rapid draft from just a project description in seconds. Using that RTF prompt we just talked about, you simply tell the AI to act as a PMP-certified project manager and draft a Level 3 WBS. And boom, you get an immediate hierarchical output. If you ask for an ERP implementation, the AI instantly gives you a structured breakdown covering planning, design, build, testing, deployment, and final hypercare. It hands you a rapid draft that you, the expert, can then simply refine. It's a total game changer. Now, to refine those deliverables and catch missed logical dependencies, we use COAT, or chain of thought prompting. This is where you force the AI to show its reasoning step by step. Dependencies are so easy to miss during planning, but with chain of thought, the AI infers likely dependencies directly from the WBS and creates a dependency matrix which gives you a much more robust schedule. The absolute key here is using that chain of thought prompt to challenge your work packages against the classic 80-hour rule. How do you know if your tasks are sufficiently detailed? Well, you ask the AI to review the WBS, assess whether each work package meets the 80-hour rule, and show its reasoning. This instantly flags the packages that require further decomposition. Which brings us to phase 3, validating and protecting scope. This is where we build a fortress around our project. The traditional challenges here are super painful. Discovering missing deliverables way too late, stakeholders blindly approving technical scope they don't actually understand, and the inevitable scope creep. Rather than suffering through that, AI gives you objective, automated validation. For example, you can use a few-shot prompt, feeding the AI examples of successful past projects, so it can objectively spot missing milestones in your current one. And to solve that issue of stakeholders not understanding what they're actually approving, you can use the CARE framework: context, action, response, emotion. You'd say something like, context: senior executives need to approve scope. Action: explain the scope in plain English. Response: a one-page executive summary. Emotion: clear, confident, and non-technical. It perfectly translates complex scope to secure actual informed stakeholder buy-in. Then, when those sneaky change requests pop up, and they always do, you use a RAG prompt. That stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. This ensures the AI only checks the request against your approved attached baseline documents. You ask it to identify if the request is in scope, out of scope, or ambiguous, demanding evidence from the baseline. This gives you perfectly objective scope management. No more arguing over opinions. Oh, and maintaining requirements traceability manually? That's another massive headache. AI completely solves this using template prompting to automatically generate a traceability matrix. It directly links your business objectives to requirements, deliverables, and test cases. This drastically improves your audit readiness without you having to spend days buried in massive spreadsheets. Finally, let's look at Phase 4, the 10 million pound blueprint. Let's pull all these micro lessons together. We can map exactly which insider prompt technique solves each specific project activity. Gathering requirements? You use flipped instruction. Defining scope and creating a WBS? Go with RTF. For deliverable decomposition, it's chain of thought. Gap analysis relies on few-shot, scope validation uses CARE, and fighting scope creep requires RAG. So imagine you're delivering a massive £10 million digital transformation program. You'd stack these prompts chronologically. First, flipped instruction interviews your stakeholders. Second, RTF creates the scope statement in WBS. Third, chain of thought finds your dependencies. Fourth, few-shot compares it against past successes. Fifth, RAG validates any change requests. And finally, CARE explains it all to the execs. You're literally automating the administrative burden at every single step. Ultimately, integrating AI transitions project management from a manual, exhausting slog into a highly strategic and rapid advantage. The result is a faster, more complete, and vastly more controlled approach to scope management throughout the entire lifecycle. It finally lets project managers actually manage rather than just doing nonstop data entry. So, with these powerful frameworks at your fingertips, from flipped instruction right through to CARE, you have a completely new toolkit to redefine how work gets done. I'll leave you with this final thought. Given how accessible and transformative these techniques are you still managing scope the hard way?